What's up, peeps? It's your boy CJ, and today we're reviewing the DIY Watchclub Vintage Diver. Full disclosure, DIY Watchclub did send this over. I do not have to return it, so it is a gift. Just wanted to make that clear. Apart from that, they have no say whatsoever of the content of this video. As you know, I always keep it real. Let's get it. Okay, let's get the boring stuff out of the way. So specs, we have a 40mm case. We have a lug-to-lug of 47.5 millimeters. A lug width of 20 millimeters, case thickness of 13.3, and that includes the high dome acrylic vintage crystal. And then we have a water resistance of 10 ATM, which is 100 meters. All stainless steel construction, and the loom includes C3 super loom for the NH series. All right, let's talk about how it wears. As you can see here, very comfortable. It hugs the wrist really well due to the curved edges of those lugs. It doesn't curve too aggressively, but that flatness and the case size of 40 mils, I think, is going to wear pretty well on the majority of wrist sizes. The fact that it has a 20 millimeter lug width is going to run you a very comfortable fit, and it's not going to have any issues when it comes to strap changes. Speaking of straps, the watch does come with this Marine Nationale type elastic band strap. While great in construction, personally, it isn't my type of favorite strap, so I won't be rocking this on this piece. But when it comes to wearability, the watch fits extremely well. Okay, now let's look at features. So when it comes to the dial, it's a pretty simplistic layout. You got your triangular 12 o'clock indice over there, as well as these baton style indices everywhere else. The 6 and 9 are more prominent, and then you have a date window at 3. The design of these actual indices, while printed, have a really cool almost 3D effect because of that segmented section at the lower portion of those baton indices, which I think is something unique, and I haven't actually seen that before. It's exaggerated more on the 12 o'clock triangular indice, and I think that's really, really cool. When it comes to actual text, the dial is as minimal as it gets. It features that DWC logo and the model number, and then just automatic and water resistance in red. Now, there's no red colors anywhere else on the dial, so this is a little bit of an odd choice. I feel it plays with the dial a bit well, giving it a bit of dimensionality when it comes to visual interest. We have a simple stainless steel rehort there, and then you got the minute track in between each indice as per normal. Date window is white printed framed, and then you got the actual date disc that's white. It would have been nice to see a color match date wheel, but nonetheless, I feel for this vintage styling, it works really well. The bezel features minute markers right around, as well as your main 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and then a loom pip at the 60. I feel like this really adds to that sort of look. It also has that slightly curved down angle of the actual bezel itself, and the bezel for me is one of my favorite features of the watch. That high polish or high sheen when it comes to the knurling gives a lot of light play, especially with the contrast of the black of the insert. We then have some beautiful sort of curving inward brushing on the top of the lugs, as well as this high polish that you'd get on the sides, as well as just above the crown guards. And speaking of crown guards, they sort of angle inwards really nicely, giving this nice visual look that sort of brings your eye towards the crown, which is signed, bulky, and has some great knurling, and feels and acts really well when you're winding the watch and setting the time. Everything feels substantial, firm. There's a nice reassurance when using that crown, so well done on DIY Watchclub for that. On the case back, it's pretty standard here. You have a high polished section of the actual case itself, and then the case back features these screw down sections with exhibition. You got your specs on the outer edge, and then my custom rotor, as you can see, with a little bit of decoration on there featuring my name, which is nice to see that NH35 inside. Okay, so now let's look at the lume and legibility. As you can see, when it comes to legibility, the watch just nails it. It's extremely legible, very clear. The high contrast of the black with those sort of yellowy green indices just pops. The hands and the actual lume portions of the hands just stand out really well, and I feel like they differentiate themselves from the rest of the dial very clearly, so there isn't any confusion when it comes to legibility. The lume, as you can see here, is very bright, but if I speed up the footage, you see it disappears quite quickly. I wouldn't say it's the worst, but it definitely doesn't last too long, which is a bit disappointing. Now onto the pros and cons. So for the cons, the watch unfortunately features this acrylic crystal. Now, for me, the acrylic crystal is going to be a hit or miss for some. For me, I think it's a hit. However, I still would prefer a sapphire. And the reason why it's part of the cons is because it scratches easily. Now, while Polywatch could get these scratches removed, the majority of any deeper scratch that you might obtain is definitely going to be unable to be taken out. And I feel like that is a con when it comes to wearability, especially for something that wears so well, feels so good on wrist. You're going to want to rock this watch on the regular. I've been wearing it all week, actually for like a week and a half straight almost. And I enjoy wearing it, but there is that bit of hesitation or that bit of scare when it comes to how it's going to act regarding your environment, depending on what your work environment is or anything you're doing during the day, really. That being said, this is a dive watch and it's supposed to be used. And so that's why I'm putting this crystal in the con, because I feel like I would pay just slightly more for a sapphire, and I feel like that would have been a well-needed extra benefit. The other con is the backplay. So on the bezel, it lines up really well, has a beautiful 60-click bezel, but the issue is the backplay. And that makes you feel as if it's not lining up because it moves so very quickly, or just with a slight bump, it takes it just a smidge off. It's not the worst we've seen, but it's definitely a con that I wish was perfected in terms of the actual bezel itself. This is a very subtle one, but I would say the other con would be the lume. While it's really bright at the start, it does fade, not quickly, I've seen worse for sure, but it definitely does fade, and that's something that I wish would have lasted longer. I'd rather prefer a longer lasting lume than one that starts off really bright but fades quickly. Now onto the pros. The watch is really well built for the price. You're getting that vintage flair, that styling from your traditional Rolex or Tudor subs, but a watch that's your own. This is going to be a piece that's sentimental for sure. I mean, in my construction of it, I unfortunately scratched the dial itself when adding the minute hand. And as much as I didn't like that at the time, after assembly, I actually felt a bit of pride knowing that this is my piece, this is my watch. I made that mistake. This is all me, you know, and I really find that charming. So I love the fact that the watch wears so well, feels so good, and the quality of it for the money you're paying is very, very good, very well spent. The other pro is the bezel. The bezel completes the look of that vintage sub vibe that you're getting here. Now, I know that's kind of obvious, but when you're in a bright sunny day and you see that shimmer on the edge of that bezel of the knurling, it really puts a smile on your face knowing that you got this modern built watch that you did that gives you that vintage feel of something that's a blast from the past. And I think that's really, really awesome. The other pro is how legible it is. Now, I know I talk a lot about legibility, and it's mainly because I feel like it's an extremely useful feature to have on a watch, especially something like a tool watch. It makes no sense for me to have a tool watch that's almost distracted by so much going on the dial and you can't read the time. So This watch is extremely legible, quickly at a glance, and I actually love how the hands are blacked out to match the dial, so you only see the sort of painted areas where the lume would be, and so it really stands out. But then you get that nice surprise when you hit the light just right and you see those little chamfer on the hands itself. Really, really nice touch. So you've made it this far to the video, hopefully, and now we can talk about the actual whole assembly, and is this watch worth it for the money that you're paying? I'm just going to flat out say 100% is it worth it. You're getting a really well built watch if you follow the steps correctly, for a price that would easily be matched by something similar or less than, but this time it's your own watch. You've built it. This experience, this feeling that you get from the kit itself is unmatched. You're not really going to get that elsewhere, and if you do, you're probably going to mess it up. I mean, for me, for example, as you can see here, I was trying to assemble the minute hand on the dial, and I got overconfident, got too confident in fact, and I skipped a few steps and I didn't put it on correctly, and I scratched the dial because of it. Now, if you can imagine, if you were following every single step, I can feel very confident in knowing that you would have assembled this watch pretty much accurately and perfectly. If you do what I do or do what I did and you skip the steps, which I do not recommend, obviously, you will make mistakes, and some of those mistakes are going to be your own, and you're going to have a sense of pride because of it. And that's what I have now. I know this watch is mine. It's my own. I made those mistakes, and I take ownership to it, and I feel good about it, because it's hard to describe, but I don't think you're going to get that from any other watch. Even if you build your own, really, like, you buy the parts off AliExpress and you try to assemble your own watch, you might have that sense of pride, but you're not going to be confident that everything was done 100% correctly, because at least the instructions, the guide, how thoughtfully done it is on the website, everything is professional, everything's clear and concise. The footage is well done as well. That way, there's no confusion of, okay, I didn't do this correctly, or I didn't grab this tool correctly. It's all very clear and easily to understand. I feel like this entire kit is worth the price on its own, let alone the actual experience that you get, which is almost priceless, as well as a well-built watch at the end. So I highly recommend DIY Watch Club. I can definitely see myself purchasing one for myself, and so I cannot recommend it enough for everybody else. Make sure you get one. Link will be in the description. They have tons of different features, different options. So yeah, have fun with it. All right, if you've made it thus far, thank you so much. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you like the watch? Do you not like it? Do you think it's not worth it? If you were to build one, which one would you go for? Yeah, let me know your thoughts. Really keen to hear about it. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. It'll obviously support me and the channel and all the future videos moving forward. And remember to follow me on Instagram, and don't forget to watch out.